So what do you do when you find out that people in your own party don't support you? Do you listen to their concerns? Do you empathize with them? Or do you just flat out ignore them and embrace the majority of the people that happen to be on your side? Well, if you're Donald Trump, you're going to do kind of none of those things. And instead, you're going to lash out at those very few people in your own party that don't like you and call them stupid. Because, fun. So, as usual, taking to social media, our very grown up, adult, stable genius president first talked about his approval ratings because, of course, right? He says 95% approval rating of President Trump and the Republican Party. I would imagine the 5% are rhinos, with an apostrophe, and stupid people who don't want to see great judges and Supreme Court justices, a new and powerful military, choice for vets, 2A protection, big regulation cuts, life, and much more. Right. It is funny that he mentions the judges, right? Some of the judges, I mean, yes, some of the decisions coming from the court are generally like party line, with John Roberts crossing over to actually join the liberals. In fact, we just had an abortion ruling where John Roberts did exactly that as Chief Justice. And so, but, a couple of the decisions, at least one of the justices, Neil Gorsuch, basically, has also crossed over to the side of the liberals. And so, what happened with those great Supreme Court picks? Not to say, of course, that Neil Gorsuch is on our side at all, but he's just mainly corporatist. Nonetheless, right? The 5%. It's going to go after the 5% because 95% is not enough. Understand, it's not enough for somebody like Donald Trump. He's got to have 100% or he's very, very unhappy. He's very, very sad, very, very unhappy. The stupid people, the rhinos. How dare the rhinos come after me? So, who are they, right? Well, these are the Republicans that realize that you cannot go around dog whistling and appealing to the most racist people openly and expect to win an election. I mean, they're the ones that, yes, they actually do want most of the policies that President Trump puts up, but what they don't like is the open racism and misogyny. Why? It's because it hurts them electorally, right? I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Remember the Bill Kristols and the Rick Wilsons and George Conways and Steve Schmitz, they are still overall terrible people. Look, as much as I enjoyed seeing the ads from the Lincoln Project, which is a big Republican group that has been, that is George Conway's, of course, Bill Kristols, and Rick Wilson's group, they've been making some devastating ads against Donald Trump, and I do enjoy them. Why? Because I love seeing Republican on Republican crime. And Republicans seem to be the only ones that have the balls to be vicious to other people. In this case, Republicans versus Republicans or Republicans versus Donald Trump, who really has no ideology other than help Donald Trump. So that's what that is. So now, remember, the key to the Republican grift, right? Because again, Bill Kristol and those guys, what they want is more wars and they want more tax cuts for the rich. But the key to the grift, right, is you got to kind of mislead or very much so mislead and confuse voters into supporting policy that only helps rich. Remember, right, this is what Frank Luntz, that's what his job was originally. I mean, yes, he's a pollster, right? But one of his other jobs for the Republican Party was to come up with ways to basically disguise Republican bad policy, right? Which mainly, again, helps rich and corporations to disguise that bad policy with good sounding names, like the Freedom and America Act, which has nothing to do with freedom or America, which would like shift. This is just an example, right? And it's not real legislation that I know of, right? Like the Freedom, America, and Apple Pie Act. And it like literally probably allows like pesticides or some horrible stuff to be sprayed on apples and then gives like the Apple corporations a giant tax cut. I mean, something stupid like that. That's kind of along the lines that these Republicans operate when they craft policy. And so they don't want you to know that their policy is terrible. So they come up with like names for it that's supposed to appeal to, the jingoism and all that stuff. And, oh, look at that, American exceptionalism. It's the Exceptional America Act, which like allows corporations to, go and outsource most of their jobs overseas and give them giant tax cuts, stuff like that, right? Anything that helps the wealthy, anything that helps corporations, they're all about, right? So understand in that regard, you're not really different than Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is also pretends to be rich, right? So he saves money with tax cuts, and then also runs a company, and so those tax cuts help him. That deregulation helps him, and so anything that helps Donald Trump, he's in favor of. And so that said, there are some differences, right? And so before I get to that, again, this grift relies on being subtle, right? In this case, being subtle about racism and basically trying to pit the classes and the races against each other so they can't, see that the Republicans are the ones picking their pockets. And so Trump's not savvy enough. Trump's not smart enough to code his language in that way. No, the guy just blurts it right out. I mean, over the weekend, he retweeted a video where a guy was like, white power. What? I mean, again, he's not even hiding it. And so every Republican that's a, rhino that wants to actually win and continue the grift, they're like, what are you doing, you moron? Stop tweeting. Stop doing it. Remember, that's the biggest complaint that Republicans have is Donald Trump really needs to stop tweeting. Why? It's because he's too honest, because he's not smart enough to hide his racism, bigotry, and xenophobia and misogyny. He's just not smart enough. Now, the issue, of course, there's another issue. As I said, it's policy, right? Some of the policies, they do differ on. Donald Trump, for example, wants, not just Donald Trump, but Republicans in general tend to want more military spending, right? More Pentagon spending. And of course, the Democrats also tend to do more military spending, right? Because everybody loves the industrial complex, the military industrial complex in Congress, right? Thing is about Donald Trump, he wants more military spending, but less war. Not getting into, more Middle Eastern wars. I'm sure he'll, try to, now that Iran has issued, basically, they want to arrest Donald Trump. Okay, Iran, I get it, right? For the death of Soleimani. At the same time, like, you're going to provoke this moron of morons into a war, which is going to be absolutely disastrous. Like, not a good idea, because you never know with Donald Trump, but generally he has been against these wars, even though he's been in favor of military spending, right? The people like John Bolton and Bill Kristol, they're the architects of the Iraq War, right? So they want more war in the Middle East, and they welcome a conflict with Iran. And also welcome a conflict with North Korea as well. They salivate over it, while Donald Trump is like, I want Kim Jong-un. He wants to be my friend. I want to be Kim Jong-un's friends. We sent each other love letters, right? And Trump hates Iran only because I think Obama made a deal with them once, and anything Obama did was ultimately 100% bad, right? But there's also the issue of free trade, right? The GOP establishment loves free trade. They love the outsourcing to other countries where they can make an extra buck and exploit people with no labor laws or little labor laws. And of course, pay them less. And then they want to use that outsourcing argument, to say that, hey, if we want to bring jobs back, we're going to have to deregulate. We're going to have to cut regulations. We're going to have to cut the minimum wage, pay people less, destroy unions, all that stuff. So Trump's slightly more populist position on free trade undermines the Republican grift. So that said, right, I think at this point we've established that a decent chunk of the Republican base are just terrible people, generally, right? They keep pushing for a more openly racist, misogynistic, anti-Semitic conspiracy theorists to be in office. And I'm not just saying the presidency, I'm saying all over the country. We're seeing a crop of Republican politicians get worse and worse and worse, especially as the more establishment GOP politicians are retiring over Donald Trump. And so you're seeing that, right? And you're seeing a rise, of course, in these people that want to vote more of these Trump-like people into office. But as that, little base pushes for more of those people, they turn off the less extreme members and, of course, turn off most of the rest of the country. And so that's why they're going to lose in the long run. As long as more people vote, as long as we don't have, of course, massive voter suppression, or we can push past that voter suppression. And there's the other thing, right? So now the business wing of the Republican Party, right? The establishment, they're very, very concerned about all this, right? About all these very loud, racist Republicans. And they're concerned with the fact that these Republicans have woken up the rest of the electorate and really showed them how bad they really are, right? The rest of the country rejects all this stuff. These are the people that normally don't pay attention to politics. They're the ones that would believe that, oh no, why would you fire somebody for being gay? That doesn't make any sense. I thought we had protections over that. Turns out we actually don't have any protections from that. And then these are also the people that were like, wait, I didn't realize police were that awful to black people. And it turns out maybe we should do something about that, right? Those people, again, they're not exactly low information. They just don't have time to consume news like we do, right? So they don't have time to consume news. They're busy living their lives and they're working and they're, sometimes doing the two jobs or just trying to stay away from politics as much as they can. But at this point, it's become unavoidable. Because Donald Trump doesn't shut his mouth. And so now it's very, very obvious who this guy is. And so now you have these establishment Republicans that are saying, no, wait, that's not what the Republican Party is all about. In reality, of course, they are very low key about many of those same things, the racism, misogyny. Going back to Reagan with the welfare queens. They've always been about this, but it's always been hidden. It's always been more subtle. And so they don't like the fact that it's now out in the open. But here's the thing. You can't shove this thing back in the bottle. These Republicans are hoping that you will. But that base, the ones that are with Donald Trump, they show you exactly who they are. And when somebody shows you who they are, well, you should believe it. You should believe them. That said, even Trump is starting to lose some of that support. Not again the massive racists and misogynists and xenophobes. Not losing those people, but losing key constituencies, right? Independents and even senior voters. I guess it turns out that whole "let's sacrifice you for Wall Street" thing, that the White House had been pushing. Not exactly popular with that demographic. Who would have thought, right? And those who, paid attention, those seniors, might have noticed that throughout his entire administration, throughout his entire term, every budget that has been put forward, and of course those budgets are blueprints about their policy priorities, right? Every one of those had Social Security cuts in it. They want to cut Social Security. And so, yeah, that pisses off senior voters. And so now he's losing that constituency. Now he's losing the independents because of all this stuff, because especially the COVID-19 response. It has been terrible. It has been an absolute disaster. And so now, because of that, Trump's overall approval numbers with Americans are in the low 40s, whereas disapproval ratings are a staggering 56%. It's a disaster. He's in serious trouble, right? And so instead of trying to do something about it, instead of actually trying to, do a better job so that he can get reelected, well, he's going to do the lazy thing because that's who he is. He's lazy. He's going to say those rhinos are stupid. Anybody who, is against me in the Republican Party is stupid. Oh, well, that's going to bring you more voters, especially Republican voters who might be on the fence. look, again, I couldn't imagine anybody who's on the fence other than somebody who hasn't been paying attention. But the whole point is you're going to turn people off. And I don't know why I'm like trying to give advice here, because I want Donald Trump to lose, and I want him to lose very, very badly. But if he keeps going in this direction, well, that's exactly what's going to happen. I mean, again, I know some of you might be like, no. Joe Biden's got a million problems. Yup. Even so, with all the problems that he has, and I think in a lot of cases he's got more baggage than Hillary Clinton, but he doesn't have the negative connotations associated with him that Hillary Clinton has. He's got the positive association to Barack Obama because he was Veep for 8 years. And so he's got that going for him. He's got higher positives than Hillary Clinton. And so in this case, it's Donald Trump's election to lose, not Joe Biden's to win. And so I think what we're going to see at the end of the day is if the situation continues to be like this and people continue to reject Donald Trump in droves, and I don't see it changing, Biden's going to walk right into it. And he's going to defeat Donald Trump. And so, again, that's just what I'm saying. That's just what I think. He is in serious trouble, though. And again, instead of trying to fix it, Donald Trump is just going to scream and rant all the way until the election, all the way until November, until he gets ousted. All right. Yeah, at this point, people will vote for a ham sandwich over Donald Trump. And no one's more of a crusty old ham sandwich that's been out in the sun than Joe Biden. But compared to a turd sandwich, yeah. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.